if you refuse to assume the responsibility of the incarnation of a new and higher concept of yourself, then you reject the means, the only means whereby your redemption, that is, the attainment of your ideal, can be effected. Hello, my fellow flawless, limitless, sexy, sassy, saucy HBICs. How are you on this lovely morning, afternoon, or evening? How are you all? I hope you're all doing fabulous, and I hope you're all choosing to be the versions of yourself that have exactly what you want. I hope that's what you're doing. I hope you had a fabulous weekend, a fabulous 4th of July, if you celebrate the 4th of July, of course. I hope you were all sincerely choosing to be the self you want. It's a phrase that you hear me say quite often on this channel, unless, of course, you're new to the channel. If you are, well, how you doing? I'm Kimberly, and I like to get what I want. I like to get it in a timely fashion, and I like to know everything there is to know about manifestation. And if you feel the same way and you want to change your life, then I think you and I should be friends. So why don't you hit subscribe and let me know in the comments below that you are new here, okay? Today, we're talking about the state, the wish fulfilled, the state of consciousness where you have what you want, aka the version of you that has what you want. Unless you're brand new to conscious manifestation, you've heard these phrases probably a million times. And if you've been watching my content, you've heard it like a billion, because we're always referring to our state. Why is it important? Because you're always experiencing the reflection of your state. And Neville had some zhuzhy stuff to talk about. Your imagination is the instrument, the means whereby your redemption from slavery, sickness, and poverty is effected. If you refuse to assume the responsibility of the incarnation of a new and higher concept of yourself, then you reject the means, the only means whereby your redemption, that is, the attainment of your ideal, can be effected. Imagination is the only redemptive power in the universe. However, your nature is such that it is optional to you whether you remain in your present concept of yourself, a hungry being longing for freedom, health, and security, or choose to become the instrument of your own redemption, imagining yourself as that which you want to be, and thereby satisfying your hunger and redeeming yourself. Heavy words from Neville, but he speaks facts. He's dropping facts. You, as a human, a conscious, manifesting human, who's experiencing reality through the what? The reflection of the imagination, because that's what everything is out here, right? You can call it the reflection or the projection, but you're experiencing what you have imagined, or what state of consciousness you're inhabiting. What are the things that you consent to as true? What do you believe about yourself? And we often forget, when we're thinking about giving ourselves just that one little last taste of thinking about how this isn't working, life isn't working, I don't think I'm ever going to get this manifestation, worried about what your specific person is doing, worried about where the money is coming from. All of that is wasted time in imagination, from my perspective. Wasted. You have the power, the answer, the solution to whatever it is that you're manifesting, or the solution to whatever circumstance you might have. That answer is within you, but you have the free will whether to utilize the imagination to your benefit or to your punishment. I know that sounds harsh, But I think some of us, we get caught up in wishing and hoping that maybe someday things will change, yet at the same time, still relentlessly identifying as an old version of yourself. There is nothing more powerful, no solution more powerful than the imagination, and that is you using it to your benefit. That is you thinking about being the version of you that has the desire. And I know all of that just sounds so damn serious, almost mathematical, like we have to hit all these targets or else we're not going to get what we want. And it really doesn't have to be that way. Just you taking a few authentic moments to think about what you really believe about yourself. Who are you walking around identifying as day to day? And are you being honest with yourself? Or are you still telling stories that are not favorable to you? And if you are, why? Why are they still running around in the mind? Because your 3D looks a certain way? So you keep deeming it as it hasn't changed. I still don't have what I want. For some of you, I know you've been doing this for years and nothing's changed. And I'm going to tell you really straight up, it's not because you can't have your desire, but who you walk around believing you are from day to day matters. And some of us have had a little more linear time on this planet. So we got a lot more experiences that our mind loves to remind us of. And based on, whatever your belief system was before you found conscious manifestation, you might still be battling with an old belief system, literally an old belief system, or what you believe is possible for you. You really want to take an authentic look of why do you still believe that? Why are you still agreeing with that? And in fact, you're consenting to it. I know that's harsh, but it's true. If you're willing to sit and marinate that you haven't heard from your specific person, no matter how much that is painful, uncomfortable, and it might really be what it appears to be happening in reality, but it is you continuing the story. Now, I know sometimes it's because, I don't have a logical explanation as to why I'm not hearing from my person. So what am I supposed to say in that moment? That I am who I say I am. And I am this version of myself. And then what I would do if I were you, I would view reality as, okay, maybe I don't have the full understanding of why it seems to be quiet in reality. But I don't like the idea that I'm just not hearing from my person. That doesn't feel like a favorable story. What would feel more favorable is I might be experiencing something quiet, a quietness. But it must be happening because it makes sense to my manifestation, even if it doesn't make logical sense to me. So I surrender it. I'm going to stop fighting with reality. I'm going to stop questioning. I'm going to start showing up as the version of myself that I want to be. I'm done trying to figure out where my specific person is or why I haven't heard from specific person. I'm done wondering where the money that I've been manifesting is. I'm going to allow myself to think about the version of myself that doesn't worry about where money is coming from. The version of me of, having safety, comfort, freedom in reality. And what it would feel like to know I never have to worry about money ever again. What is that version of me doing? And you see, just that simple. What is that version of me doing? What would it feel like to be that version of me? You just allowing yourself to answer those questions is you spending time in the imagination as that new version of yourself. Not making it something stressful, not making it another technique to do, but literally just thinking about the what ifs, but to your benefit. That's really all that's required. That's what I meant earlier in the video when I said all of this can sound like, oh my God, there's so many things I need to do to be a new version of myself. No, not really. It's just using your imagination to your benefit instead of wasting time in imagination thinking about why it hasn't shown up yet, why it's not here, why is SP acting this way? What am I doing wrong that reality hasn't shifted? Instead of continuing to tell a story that you are unfulfilled. See, that's the beauty of conscious manifestation, is taking some responsibility of where our thoughts go from moment to moment. Now, for some of you, I know you've already taken your responsibility. I know that you know how to manifest. So how can we really move past the wasteful use of imagination? And I call it the wasteful use because if you're not imagining a life you love, if you're not thinking from the perspective of something that benefits you, I think that's wasteful. Why would we marinate in old stories that we don't choose for ourselves anymore? Why would we do that? Why would we sit and think poorly about ourselves? Oh, hell no. We are of the new age, are we not? We are of the grand awakening. So we know better. There's a bigger orchestration at play in reality right now, and that includes you getting the exact thing you're manifesting right now. And maybe you were meant to hear this message from me today. You have all the power, and quite frankly, the only power to change your life. The most powerful thing that we all have individually within our individual realities is knowing that we are pure, unadulterated consciousness, aka the I am, and that our imagination is the answer to any problem. Any problem, any circumstance, the imagination. And when I say it's the answer, I don't mean that you got to figure out the answer. No, you only need to think about the version of yourself that is experiencing a reality that he or she prefers. That's it. That's the answer. And the more often you do that, you're going to start seeing how reality starts to rearrange itself. That's the answer. Does that seem hard? Does it seem hard? If you just started out, maybe that seems a little difficult because maybe you're in a habit of just letting your mind go wherever it wants. So maybe you have a few more habits we got to break out of. But it will eventually get easier where you don't need to micromanage yourself or micromanage your mind. You'll start to notice that when you start to feel uncomfortable, you'll know. You will know immediately, what am I thinking? What am I focusing on? You're going to know. The changes which take place in your life as a result of your changed concept of yourself always appear to the unenlightened to be the result, not of a change of your consciousness, but of chance, outer cause, or coincidence. However, the only fate governing your life is the fate determined by your own concepts, your own assumptions. For an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. The ideal you seek and hope to attain will not manifest itself, will not be realized by you until you have imagined that you are already that ideal. Think about it. Most of the time, we know that we're experiencing a reality that absolutely is starting to rearrange itself, but we either don't notice that there are things happening, things are being moved, right? The pieces on the chessboard are getting shuffled around, or we're still of the thinking that, well, that would have happened anyway. That was just a coincidence. So I'm saying, some of you out there who still believe that nothing is happening, there are no changes in reality, you're probably not noticing them, or you're still blowing things off. It's just a coincidence, or it's just another sign, another synchronicity. It's not a big enough change. Why would we ever think that? Unless that victim state feels a lot more comfy. Because when we diminish things, pieces of evidence that really are reflections of your own mind, when you diminish it as not good enough, do you understand the story you're telling right there in that moment? Everything you experience every single day is somehow, some way connected to you getting your desire. And you have the free will choice on whether to continue believing that you will have your desire and that you are the version of yourself that is going to experience it, or it's not moving fast enough. Nothing's changing. Same old stuff. This shit would have happened anyway. Who cares? Who do you show up as every day? Someone who's expecting the mundane to never change? Someone who's fearing that you're never going to get your result? Or someone who is showing up doing the best that they can? Not from perfection, but doing the best that they can to really think about being the self that has the desire and what that self would be experiencing, how they would function day to day in their reality. That is thinking from. Thinking from. In other words, I know for some, it just feels like, well, I'm just imagining it. It's still only like the make-believe, the fantasy in my mind. No, it's not. It's you experiencing it. It's you going to the one and only true reality. But we got to see through the stories that we tell ourselves. See through the veil. The next time you feel like garbage, and there's not a reason like, oh, I don't feel well, I have the flu. If it's not that, and you just feel down, ask yourself why. Or what was I just thinking? What have I been thinking about that I feel down? And ask yourself those questions. Why do I believe that? Why do I believe that thought? Why would I automatically assume the worst for myself? Why did that happen? Is what I'm afraid of really true? Or is that just a story I made up in my head, assuming that I'm protecting myself from the worst case scenario? Conditions, beliefs, layers of ignorance. And you have the free will to change that right now. Simply by imagining the self you want to be. And remember, that doesn't mean you got to figure out everything. It just means you got to think about the you want to be. That's it. That's all you got to do. Who do you want to be? What do you want your life to look like? Do you believe having whatever you just said for answers? Do you believe it's possible for you? Do you think it's possible? And do you think there's only one way it could come to you? Think about what you're actually thinking about when you think about your manifestation. What are the fears that come up? Are they literal, logical fears? Or are they just more stories that we've been believing? Who do you want to be? ask yourself, who do you want to be? What do you want life to look like? How do you want to feel about that life? And are you doing the best that you can to show up to reality as that version of yourself? And if you know you're doing those things, then how do you judge reality? How do you view it? How do you perceive it? Do you perceive it as still not working, unfavorable? And if you say yes to that, then you need to really check in on who you're being. But if you know you can answer that with, I know that I don't have to love everything I experience. I just need to know that literally everything I experience is somehow, some way connected to me getting exactly what I want. That's how I view reality, Kim. I don't let it tell me who I am. Then you don't have a damn thing to worry about, and you can expect to experience your desire. So on that note, I'll see you tomorrow. Editing Kim here, and I just want to say before we finish the video that if you would like to hang out with more like-minded people that believe probably in the same exact thing that you believe, which is conscious manifestation, I really encourage you to check out my 3 channel memberships. I always point out the big one, the VIP, the Advanced Manifestors, because that is the one that gives you access to all of the channel memberships. So you'll get to come to the Advanced Manifestors, which is where we deep dive manifestation, expand our awareness or understanding is there, and we're less likely to shit ourselves over 3D reality. And we have the exclusive lives, which we will be live together for the exclusive lives tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's the group where we just talk about success stories. We had a mega success story last week. I was so freaking excited, on top of all the other successes that got shared. But if you'd like to hear other things like that uplift you, you pick up other tips and tricks, things to help you remain as the version of self you want to be, then you will have access to that group, as well as the Friday group, which is my hot seat group. That's the group that sounds like it is. You can get into the hot seat and ask me anything you want. It's like a 10 to 15 minute coaching call with me. So the VIP, the Advanced Manifestors, they have access to all of that, including the replays, the recordings of the replays, as well as more private live streams together. Yes. So that means in addition to the 3 channel memberships, also private lives. You can pretty much ask anything you want and talk about anything you want. That's what the VIP group gets, and some other fun stuff coming soon. So anyway, if you'd like that, check out those. Information's in Dropbox below, as well as on how to work with me. Dropbox below.